Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Quantum Recovery Podcast. I am talking today. I have some pretty exciting things I'm talking about today. What brought this episode on is because I was lecturing to a group of people and they had extra questions. So I wanted to review the big needle movers. I've had a freebie out for a while now. That's called Three Needle Movers for Quantum Recovery. And those needle movers being seeing sunrise, UVA rise, and blocking blue light at night. Now, if you go back a couple episodes, you'll hear my episode about blue blockers. So that is all covered. But I have created a new freebie that is way more in detail and it covers the three needle movers. Okay. But I think people need a blue blocking guide. I know that I needed one before I got accustomed to it. I cover everything about blue blockers in the video and in the guide. So today we're going to talk about in depth the sunrise and the UVA light because I don't think that has been relayed in a way that is sticking. So we are going to review it. Now, one of the things that I have come across is a really great study that's called Circadian Rhythms and Substance Use Disorders, a Bidirectional Relationship. This is a 2021 study. And the highlights of this study is that circadian rhythm is a risk factor, or circadian rhythm disruption, rather, is a risk factor for the development of addictive disorders. Also, the frequent use of drugs and drugs of abuse promotes circadian disruption. The chronodisruption contributes to withdrawal signs leading to relapse. And circadian rhythms restoration could help to successfully treat addictive disorders. This is so cool. Now, if you go into PubMed and you just put in circadian rhythms and addiction, you're going to find all sorts of studies, but this one really stood out to me because it speaks to prevention of relapse. So if you are one of those people who are still struggling, worried about relapse, or just really sensitive in your early recovery for whatever reason it might be because you're addressing things like mental health things and whatnot. There could be multiple reasons why you may be struggling in your early recovery, because many people do. I know I did. It is a very real thing. Remember, you are fighting a brain disease with your brain, and it is not easy. So, and you're very brave to be in the space of recovery. So I want you to know that doing the things for your circadian rhythm is going to push you into recovery. Thriving in your recovery is going to address many health situations that are going on. And that is why I'm covering the sunrise and the UVA rise today. So the biggest things that we're going to be talking about are those first two needle movers, sunrise being the first one. When you think sunrise, I want you to think hormonal pathways are being set off. That is so important and so just critical to our recovery. This is the most important light. Remembering that you should have your eyes exposed to sunrise, being no glasses on, no contacts. You really want to expose your eyes to that morning light because remember, it's going to hit your suprachiasmatic nucleus, that master clock behind your eye. Actually, we have master clocks all over, or not master clocks, but circadian clocks all over our body, but our master clock is behind our eye. So we want to really make sure that there's nothing blocking that. Now, you can also remember you don't need to see sunrise, right? I used to think, oh, I need to see sunrise. I have to actually be looking at it. And being outside in that full spectrum light is the most important thing. So even if it's cloudy outside, you are still getting the signaling. Now, this is going to be releasing cortisol. This is important because it is going to wake us up. That combination of blue and red light is just a beautiful combination that is going to be what we need to set up all sorts of hormonal pathways. Now, you cannot burn in this light. So a therapeutic dose, if you are in healing from any chronic disease or this would help with mental health. And honestly, even if you are just a human being, this is helpful, but a therapeutic dose being that 30 to 60 minutes. Now, I remember when I first started this habit of going out in sunrise and I was just standing there. I would put my bare feet in the grass and just stand there. And over time, that got very boring really, really quick. And when I first started doing it, I was less and less outside because I was like, okay, I got to go do stuff, right? I got to go inside and do whatever I need to do. So what I decided to do is I actually moved my routine outside. I moved my routine like doing my meditation. It really depends what I'm feeling like in the morning, but my movement, any exercise, it's all being done outside instead. So this is of course going to depend on the season and where you live as well. So, in the winter time, you may not be going, I mean, just it's completely different. But right now we are in the summertime, we're going into summer, but we're still in spring. So it is light out when I wake up in the morning, and that is around like 5:30. So it's very likely if you're living, well, it's going to be different for everybody because it's really going to depend where you're living and what latitude you're at. But regardless, what my point is that the sun is up with us where most of us are waking up if you're working like a typical 9 to 5 job, right? So this is it's very easy to kind of move our routine outside. So when we can do that kind of stuff, we need to take advantage of it. Because remember, this is really nature's sunscreen, and it's preconditioning your cells to absorb that UVB light that's later in the day. That's the light that tends to burn the skin, right? But if you are building your solar callus, what this is actually doing, you will hear that term come out of my mouth, solar callus, that is building up a tan, basically. Having a tan is a sign of health, and we need to remember that. It is very, very important to also get the next step, which is step 2, that UVA light. Now, I remember learning about UVA light, and one of the first things that came out of somebody's mouth was the sun is 10 degrees in the sky. And I was like, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what 10 degrees in the sky looks like. And it was intimidating at first. But let me tell you, it doesn't need to be. The more and more you get in touch with nature and you're doing these things, you are going to realize that it's not that important. And you're gonna use an app, okay? And the app is called the Circadian app. It's going to tell you when UVA is light, or the UVA is light out in your neighborhood. So depending on your latitude. So when that UVA light is out, that is actually a prime time to go for a walk if you can. It's basically the light that is following sunrise. So this is going to be also when the UV index is from a 1 to a 5. And it's usually, depending on the season, it's around like the 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. range. And so when you think UVA light, I want you to think neurotransmitter pathways, because in recovery, we are getting our dopamine back online. We are trying to sensitize it again. Same with serotonin and all the other important neurotransmitters that make us feel good. This is why the sunlight protocol helps with mood swings when we have post-acute withdrawal syndrome. So when we have post-acute withdrawal, that's that 2 weeks to 2 years in early recovery, right? That is when we typically will have these more drastic mood swings. This will stabilize your mood probably quicker than you think, getting the right light in your eyes and exposing your body to just that full spectrum light and being outside. It's so important, so critical. So dopamine increases with that natural light exposure, and that again, there's a beautiful combination of special light that's happening at that UVA rise that is going to also start the making of circulatory melatonin. That is very important. So melatonin is released in the evening from the pituitary gland, and that helps with a lot of cell cleanup and processes. But the making of melatonin is happening during the day. How do we get that system a moving and grooving? Is we get sunrise and then we get UVA rise. So this is a really important cascade that is happening of the neurotransmitters and also that circulatory melatonin. So this is prepping the skin again for that UVB light. And we're not going to talk about UVB light specifically today, because I really just want to help drive home that the sunrise and the UVA rise are critical needle movers for people in recovery. Now, again, a therapeutic dose of this is going to be 30 to 60 minutes, but do the best you can. This is why I say it's great to go for a walk at this time, but that therapeutic dose is how you're going to see results. You're just going to see more results, and you're going to notice with the blocking of the blue light at night that your sleep, your sleep is really going to, it's going to be better. You're these little tiny steps, even if you just get 5 minutes, like, don't worry about being perfect. Okay. It's just about doing what you can. So if you are starting out and you're like, Andy, I can do sunrise and I'll go out there for 5 minutes. Great. That's where I want you to start. I'm going to use my mom as a case study right now. So I was just in Minnesota at the end, or kind of like towards the end of April. And I asked my mom, because I've been sharing this stuff with her. And I asked her, Mom, have you been doing the sunrise like I told you, like we had talked about? And she was like, no, not really. And we had rearranged her room, and we had to put a mattress out on her balcony. Now she's on the second floor. So one of the things I remember telling my mom at the beginning was, Mom, get sunrise in your eyes. And then if you can, get your feet in the grass. Well, I think that was too many things. It overwhelmed her. So she ended up not doing anything at all, because I was just suggesting that even better, get your bare feet in the grass. Well, to her, that was overwhelming. And I think too many people, it might be overwhelming, especially when we're just trying to start with the one little habit, right? So anyways, then I called her a couple of weeks later, and she had said, hey, I am sitting outside on the balcony every single morning. I've been doing it every single morning. I'm getting sunrise. She started getting addicted to that. I mean, I don't want to use addiction to the sun in a bad way, but it's okay to love the sun. It's okay to gravitate towards it once you start getting in that habit. It was just so beautiful. So she tells me that she's getting out on the balcony every single day. And then I don't know, maybe a week or two later, short time, because we're only like, it's now about a month later. So this was this week that she told me this, actually, that she was now walking. She's like, yeah, I'm seeing the sunrise, but now it's like I'm sitting out there and I'm doing nothing, so I might as well be walking. So now she's collecting those electrons, right? She's getting that sunrise in her eyes, she's getting movement, and she's out in both the sunrise and then the UVA rise. So that's like lots of habit stacking, right? And that was a natural progression. You will find that when you go out and you get your eyes in the sun, that it will start being just really natural. And you'll be like, okay, what's next? I used to just get very short minutes out there, like, 5 minutes. Because remember, I was getting bored out there. So the more bored I was, the less time I stood out there. So now I go outside, I moved my routine outside. Another thing that I'll do, depending on the season. So when it's in the middle of summer, I live in Portland, Oregon, so the plants need water because it's not raining in this season. So in the mornings, that's when I will do all the watering of the plants outside. Wonderful time to do an outdoor chore. So that's another idea. But yeah, I hope that this helps, and that we understand the reason why the sunrise is a needle mover, the reason why the UVB light is so needle moving for us. Just remember, sunrise is that hormonal pathways. UVA rise, that is that neurotransmitter pathways being like that beautiful cascade, that what needs to happen for all of the signaling, and for us to really start getting our circadian rhythm balanced back up. Because remember, the study that I shared about at the beginning here, and I'll link it in the show notes, that study is saying that there's a bidirectional relationship to circadian disruption and the development of addiction. This means that having a circadian rhythm that's balanced can actually promote and help you prevent relapse and prevent a return to use. So it's okay to want the sun. It's healing. I feel like we've demonized the sun in our society a little bit with like slather on the sunscreen, block, block, block. We have a built-in system for sunscreen. I do not wear a sunscreen. Nature has built sunscreen in us. So what we need to do is just get that light in that order of operations. Now, naturally, just to close the loop here, naturally you would be able to go out and get that UVB rise, right? That is the sun that's happening like at high noon. That's when the most blue light is out, and that light is not penetrating the skin as deep. So we actually don't want to put anything on our skin to block that. And we also need to get the sunrise and the UVA to set us up to be in that UVB light. So there's another app that I've mentioned on this podcast before. I will also link it in the show notes, called the D-Minder app. That app, you plug in your information and it will let you know when to get out of the UVB light, when to seek shade, when to put a hat on, when to go inside, whatever you want to do, but it'll let you know when and it'll also calculate the vitamin D that you are collecting. It's a beautiful app. The Circadian app, that one is more for knowing when sunrise, UVA, UVB, all of it'll tell you. It'll also tell you when your peak performance is happening. It'll also tell you when the best time for exercise is, and it's free. It's super simple. Just click on the graph. It tells you when. I used that app to reformulate my routine. Did it happen overnight? No. The first step was just getting sunrise. When I started to learn how important that was, I just started to do it. A little bit of action is better than no action, even if it's not perfect. Was it the therapeutic dose that I was supposed to be getting? Was it that 30 to 60 minutes? No, on some days it was. But remember, I was getting bored. So I was like, okay, I don't want to stand out here anymore. Or I'm done. Or maybe I got cold or what have you. And now I know the benefits of cold.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found value in this information. And if you did, please share it. Another way to support the podcast is to leave a 5-star review. If you want to connect, you can message me on Instagram or email me at andiaray@outlook.com. And remember, drink water.
Any little step that you can do towards these 3 needle movers, 1 being sunrise, 2 being UVA rise, and 3 being blocking blue light at night, which you can get a lot of details if you go back and listen to the blue blocker episode. Or you can also sign up for my email and I will send you that beautiful guide I just made that has so much information and also a lot more research studies in that guide than what I've mentioned here today. I just mentioned the one because I thought it was of significance to mention in this episode. If you want more on like the science behind this, please sign up for my email and I will send you that guide because I made it for you. It is for you. And with that, I will end and I'll see you in the next one. Drink water.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found value in this information. And if you did, please share it. Another way to support the podcast is to leave a 5-star review. If you want to connect, you can message me on Instagram or email me at andiaray@outlook.com. And remember, drink water.